one for you. And I think we only have 3.
Good morning, everybody. How about this view, right? So just getting started with our panel, what's love got to do with it? Specifically creating really compelling experiences that convert. I want to get started by having our fine panelists briefly introduce themselves, just kind of little information about your title and role. Maybe we'll start with Laura.
Hi, my name is Laura Poatsy. I'm with Lilly Pulitzer. For those who don't know who Lilly Pulitzer is, we're a women's clothing retailer that specializes in brightly printed clothing and resort wear. I am the mobile experience supervisor there, so it's my job to make sure that whether you're on our native app or our mobile website, that you're having a superior experience. Yeah, that's my name.
I'm Sophia Huang, Senior Product Manager at Gilt, otherwise known as HBC Digital. We have a bunch of umbrella brands under our offering, and primarily we're speaking about Saks Fifth Avenue here. Working on a mobile styling project, and we'll speak further.
My name is Andrew Wang. I'm a product manager at Gap Inc. I recently helped lead a team that launched 4 brand new iOS apps for 4 brands. And now I'm working on store technologies and evaluating, experimenting with emerging technologies for store space.
Cool. And your moderator, Dina. I do product strategy at a company called Prolific Interactive. We're a mobile agency that does product design, development, strategy, as well as mobile growth. We have the privilege of working with wonderful companies like these, so I just want to add a little bit of context so that if you are in retail e-commerce, obviously these folks are very relevant to you. If you're not, they're still facing some really interesting challenges or working on some really interesting opportunities that I think is good context. So for Lilly Pulitzer, for example, and we'll get more into this, but we're currently working on and digging into machine learning. It also is a multi-generational brand, which I think is really interesting from the context of trying to serve and speak to different generations of customers, especially as folks, millennials, right? Okay. And for Sophie, recently, as part of that mobile styling, digging into iMessage, recently launched an iMessage app. Really kind of interesting consideration in terms of conversational commerce. And for Gap, in case you don't know, it is like a multi-brand company, right? So under the umbrella of Gap brands is Old Navy, Banana Republic, Athleta, and Gap. And within the last year, they switched all 4 brands over from a hybrid app to native apps. So I know that's kind of a big consideration for folks is, what format, what platform, what makes the most sense. So with that, first and most important question about what's love got to do with it is what do we mean when we say love, right? So I'd love to hear from each of these panelists on what does love look like in terms of your mobile experience and how do you measure that? Like how do you know that you've delivered love to your users?
I can start. So our app is mainly geared toward, providing that superior shopping experience that she's used to in any of our channels, but then also using the app as a portal to engage with the brand. So giving her kind of it's a differentiating factor that has her keep coming back to the app and enhancing her brand experience. We have a very loyal following, so our consumers are really, really hungry for anything that we throw out at her. So using the app as a way to kind of engage with her and allow her to discover the brand, it definitely is way more of an engagement tool than a revenue driver. So we really focus on retention and loyalty in that respect. So that's how we know she loves us.
How about you, Sophie?
Sure. So I'm probably aware that not many of you understand what iMessage is. It's actually an app within sort of Apple that allows you to send text, and built upon iOS update feature, there's more robust capabilities to it. For Love, in particular, our understanding is that the customers are taking a lot of their commerce decisions in the conversational chat of their everyday with their family and friends. So understanding where the customer is at and then building a product to serve and be where the customers are, so we can make your help you make your buying purchase decisions and reduce friction to checkout.
For Gap, one of the ways we show love for our customers or for our users is that we try to make everything as simple and seamless as easy for them to use. One of our key target personas that we model towards is a really busy working mom. So she shops deals for her family and she shops for herself. So we try to make it easy to surface deals and promos for her to do her shopping, to browse and to check out. Yeah, and we hear that in the reviews and in ratings all the time. And
Yeah, it's interesting seeing the very different kind of like usage and perspective on what love can look like. For the purpose of the next few questions, let's say that delivering love to your users is all about not just meeting but exceeding their expectations. So to start, because it's more of a fun approach, let's talk about when you guys didn't meet expectations. So other end of the spectrum, I'm gonna say hate, but customers were not thrilled with what you did. What happened, and how did you know that you failed to deliver love? When we start with Andrew.
yeah, for us, as Dina mentioned earlier, we were moving from hybrid apps to brand new redesigned native iOS apps. And customers or existing customers are very loyal. They're very passionate about our brands. So they were very used to the features that were available on the hybrid apps. When we decided to redesign and launch, we did a very MVP version. So it's very basic, shop, browse, check out, and buy. So we left out a certain number of features that we didn't realize that our customers or really passionate customers used many times. So one of those, for example, is right off the bat, we left out product reviews. So we got a lot of feedback that our customers, when they shop in stores, they actually use the app not to convert, but to help them decide on products as they're browsing the stores. So we quickly fixed that and put that back in the follow-up version. And so we're constantly learning from our mistakes, listening to our customers.
And thank you for admitting to mistakes. I appreciate that all. Do you guys have examples of times where you failed to deliver the love?
So iMessage is a product that's built from scratch at Saks, and unfortunately, we don't have enough data yet to say we failed. However, I want to quote sort of a case study from my time at Cheapo Air. It's a travel agency that allows you to book hotels, car rentals, and also flights online. And you would expect that based on a certain criteria, after you click on that search, in the flight search results, all of the listings on there is going to meet your criteria. However, due to business drivers, we understand that Cheapo Air is a cheap. Having the cheap in its brand name, understand that a lot of customers are actually price sensitive. So in the flight search results in the top priority 2 sections, it's actually flexible dates. So once you run a search, we didn't actually serve you the flights that meet your criteria. And a lot of customers are confused and are calling customer service and whatnot. But from a business sort of point of view, it ended up being about 12% of our revenue driver. So we understand there's a lot of frustration and also confusion around that flight search result not meeting your expectation. However, it's also, as a product manager, finding sort of the balance between business drivers and customer goals.
So as I mentioned earlier, we really use the app as an engagement tool with our consumer, and about 70% of our consumer base on the app is driven by our top 10% of our revenue paying customers. So they are super loyal to the brand, and they're really used to knowing everything first, and you know, really having that exceptional experience. And we did not realize that with our app consumer until much later, but we were super segmenting our push notifications. So, you know, she wasn't, and doing them a little bit delayed at some point. So the consumer that was signing up for the push notifications wasn't getting that information. She wasn't the first to know, and she let us know that she expected to have that, the app for her is that kind of superior driver for her shopping experience, and she really expected us to give her all the information and upfront, and she really wanted to be the first to know. And so having her kind of that feedback to be able to retailer our strategy and really make it, we don't have a loyalty program, but really use the app. It's a way to serve as the loyalty program. Is one of our many mistakes.
So flipping it around, if you want to continue, and what's a situation or feature where you did deliver love and you saw that in terms of your KPIs and business results? What's something positive?
Yeah. So one of the biggest product redesigns that we did was redesigning our Discover page, which is what 90% of our consumers that organically come to the app will land on. And previously, before the redesign, it was a very static feature. We had redesigned it a few times, but just couldn't get it quite right. And it was mainly because it was really static and cumbersome to manage. So we did a complete overhaul, made it way more dynamic, interwove some, like I said, these brand engagement features. So we have iMessage emojis and photo frames and UGC, which is user-generated content. So, pulling social feeds in and then scattering product in through that. So it was way more dynamic, way more engaging. It gave her a variety of ways to shop and get to the conversion at the end of the funnel. And that we had an overwhelming response from right off the bat, and continuing to still to this day.
And what did that look like? Was it like reviews? Did you see the numbers change?
Yeah, definitely KPIs. Discover was one of our biggest places of drop off, and so having that be your landing page is a little bit alarming. So actually getting her to go through the conversion funnel was one of the first things. We saw session length increase, obviously more events, and then yes, obviously through Apptentive. She's very vocal. she likes to be heard. Our consumer likes to be heard. So we definitely know when we're doing something wrong, and we definitely know when we're doing something right. So she definitely shared the love with us through a variety of ways.
And how about you, Andrew? What are one of the wins or features that really clearly delivered love?
Yeah, for us, it's something that's super, super simple. It's basically Touch ID. It's something that's available, on all iOS devices. For us, when we built our app, we are leveraging our e-com backend or APIs. So we are tied to our e-com rules. So one of the things that we were tied to with the old hybrid app was 30-minute timeouts. So every 30 minutes, our customers have to log back in using that little keyboard. But when we did a redesign, and then a version later we put in Touch ID, it was easy. Like, it goes back to what we were saying before. We want our users to have a simple and easy experience, and this was just something that you don't really think about, but it really saves time for our users. And we heard about it. We tend to have two different types of feedback, like from new users or loyal users that have been with us since the hybrid app. And this was just easy win for both types.
Nice. How about you, Sophie?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we're still in early phases of the project and not so much in sort of defining success moments. However, what's interesting about this project is that we're building a product to allow you to have a personal shopper at scale with customers in the conversational interface. So leveraging the expertise of all the fashion authoritative experts of Saks, Fifth Avenue, and then connecting it to the everyday customer, which you'll have a personal shopper to talk to any point in time in conversations. So currently it's a two-sided platform. On the one hand, we're looking at customers. On the other, we're measuring success in terms of stylists. We have ran a handful of workshops in the stores, and with the support of Prolific Interactive, we were able to get great feedback and comments from the stylists that we ran training with. Of 50 stylists in the stores, about at least 10 of them expressed interest in carrying this further. And it just streamlines their workflow and in-store selling experience. So that's the best feedback we've gotten.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's interesting what you point out, Andrew, is that delivering love and a win in conversion, it doesn't always have to be the biggest, most obvious, latest technology. It could be something very simple. It really all comes down to understanding what your core expectations are from the customer and what they really need and want. And sometimes it can be something simple and straightforward and may seem obvious, and like all apps have it, but you deliver it, and it can make a world of difference depending on who your user is.
Yeah, exactly. For us, it's something that she probably didn't even notice, but it's just like it's something that in her head she's already expecting it, and we just made that happen for them.
Yeah, and I would say we have actually switched a good majority of our roadmap for this year to really focusing on these simple wins that are going to make a huge impact. We're adding order tracking to the app so that she can just use that. I mean, it's so, meeting her in these mobile moments, and these things seem so simple to us, but they really do make a huge impact. So we've switched from kind of those like shiny objects to making these very simple adjustments that are really going to make her, meet her customer expectations.
So this coming from the person who's also starting to work on machine learning. Speaking of shiny objects. So I wanted to kind of switch over to some of the hot topics, right? So we hear about things. Some of them have been around for a little bit. Some are a little bit newer, right? Conversational commerce, things like personalization, omnichannel experiences. So starting with a little bit about personalization. There's a whole spectrum of what that could look like, right? So as far as what you guys are looking into, like how did you decide to get into this? What does that look like? And what does it mean for your business?
Yeah, so personalization, just as a company, from marketing to the e-com side, is a keyword both internally and obviously we all know externally. So that was a big challenge for us, is finding ways to integrate that throughout the entire customer experience. And so our website, we were presented an offer from one of our partners to be part of a beta that is ultimately going to lend itself to one-to-one machine learning experience. We are the first in the app space with this company to do that. So we wanted to dip our toe in the water, and our website has little bits of it scattered throughout. So we took some of the learnings that our website has and really pulled them over into the app side. We're launching hopefully on Friday, so stay tuned. But machine learning is a very, very long journey. And we've experimented in different ways to get personalization, whether it be location services and really meeting her there. But the end goal, and like I said, it's a long journey, but the end goal for us is to have a completely personalized experience, so that when she comes, if Sophie and I are looking at our app, she's seeing something that's completely tailored to her. And so this first experiment that we're doing is very basic, but allowing us to just let the machine learn. It's geared towards our 3 main life cycle personas, and showing her specific content as to where we believe she is based on her life events, and then kind of building on it from there. So stay tuned, but that's our first experiment, and we're excited to get going in there.
Yeah, so just a little bit more, because it's super interesting, right? So for this first phase, from a customer's perspective, am I going to see anything different, or is it just the machine's doing its thing and picking up information?
So what you'll see, there's going to be a new module added to our Discover page. So it's just going to be catalog marketing content that she'll see. So she won't see a huge change. The best part about machine learning is hopefully that you don't know there's a machine behind it. So we want to make sure that she isn't seeing anything alarming, and that it's very cohesive with the experience that she's used to, and obviously adds and builds on that rather than takes away.
Cool. And then I think the other really interesting consideration for other folks who are looking into something like this, how have you been able to do it, or what does it mean in terms of for your company in terms of resources, like internally? I think you said you're partnering with somebody,
Yeah.
but in terms of what it takes from a technology perspective, people perspective, to even just dip your toe into that.
Yeah, so we were really lucky, and we're able to partner with one of the companies that we work with. So from a resource perspective, that definitely took off a lot of the burden. But internally, we're a very lean, small team. With app and web, we're about 20 people. That includes all of our engineers, all of our product owners, operations managers, that type of stuff. So UX designers. So we're still pretty lean, and so this definitely was. It was a huge initiative that we knew going into this year was something that we wanted to focus on, and planned for it accordingly, so that it was a big piece on our roadmap. It was a huge priority, and for our website especially, we definitely rallied around it. There's a lot that goes into the prep work, like your CRM system has to be, impeccable, and there's a lot of just like data that needs to be clean and right before you can even start talking about implementing the machine. So there was a lot of integrations on that side that we needed to make sure was accurate and going well, and then of course just the general implementation. Like I said, it's a partner that we've been working with for a while. We use them for A/B testing on our website. So thankfully that integration was already put in place, and we just had to kind of just take it that next step further. But definitely it was something that we planned for and made a big priority.
Nice. Cool. Thanks for sharing all that. My hope is that you guys learn enough that you want to come and chat with these folks afterwards and get more information about what they're thinking, what they're doing. Would love to dig in a little bit more on the conversational commerce front, to hear about why you guys went the direction of an iMessage app versus, let's say, a chat bot, and how you're rolling it out, and how when you've achieved like customer love and really kind of delivered a win for the business.
Sure. We're thinking of it in two parts. So iMessage actually has a standalone app store. Within your chat bubble to all your friends and family, there's a separate app store to download iMessage, and it acts as a standalone or package as extension of iOS app. To that end, it helps you send photos, text, stickers, and basically acts as a view within the conversation without relying on the app. So that's an introduction of iMessage for those who do not know. And we decided to go this route, thinking of it as a pilot first, in terms of the technical interface, with the long-term vision, thinking that it will incorporate machine learning and personalization, and eventually having a automated personal shopper at your hands, at your disposal, anytime, where that be. So in terms of the scalability and rollout and the phases, that's sort of where we're currently at. In the pilot, we invited 50 stylists in downtown New York in 2 stores to participate. And for later phases, we're really thinking about new customers. So in the pilot, we targeted local. We targeted also really specific small demographics within metropolitan New York City, and also existing customers that had previous relationships with stylists. Future lasers, you can envision that we're scaling up to the entire universe of all our Saks customers, and where they be at, we will be there to serve them. So there are a couple phases to the project in terms of personalization. The way we think about building loyalty is really relationship based. From interviewing closely with the Saks Fifth Avenue shoppers in the club, we understand that these shoppers really understand who you are, what your lifestyle is like, what are your favorite colors, how your size variation differs between brands and sometimes where you go for your vacation, for your events and occasions. So for us, it's really the high touch human factor and communication behind personalization that's relationship driven. To focus that and to grow that would take us to the conversations that happen between the customer and the stylist. So to that end, we're really thinking that personalization comes from facilitating the relationship and pushing it further. Secondly, we're also thinking of sort of being accessible, so replicating and building a digital service that mimics sort of the everyday of your current conversations with the stylist. So being accessible and having a fun, simple experience. So you can imagine if you're planning a beach getaway, you can receive a bundle of product recommendations to create that look, or you could send a photo of this little black dress you don't know how to put together, and the personal shopper could come back with a bunch of recommendations on how to complete the look from that end. On the back end, in parallel, we're collecting all this data to ensure that we could create cluster profiles of customer insights that will eventually be automated for later phases to come. Organizationally, we also, Gilt is known for making headway in technology and personalization. We have a personalization tool lab where we have brand following, size preferences saved for you. So we're integrating, Saks is integrating with the Gilt team and building out what would be the fashion personalization long-term roadmap to come.
So, you said you were starting with a pilot of about 50 stylists. What sort of feedback are you getting? And then how do you know when you're ready to move on to the next phase? What does the next phase look like for you when you're ready to move beyond this particular kind of test phase?
Yeah, so the pilot is 50 stylists with existing customers. So it's a sort of engagement play. It's not a direct conversion booster. It's not going to lift your bottom line right away. However, we're thinking of, based on the bundles of product recommendations that you receive open and all the sessions that you end up chatting with your personal advisor, does that help bring the shopper back? Does it bring them into the store where we're currently experiencing drop-off? Does it also reduce friction and being able to anticipate your needs versus react to your needs? So being intelligent, being accessible, and the high-touch component will allow us to scale for later. So these are the top issues we're trying to figure out. And then later on, we're currently working through matching. How do we know enough about you to match you to the right personal shopper? It's kind of like dating. There's a couple set of requirements. For example, we're thinking it might be occasion-based or product-based. And then from there, we're trying to hone in on your brand designer preferences. And then from there, we're thinking of your size variations across brands. So we're currently in the process of figuring out the magic sauce of how one would be connected to a personal shopper of their choice.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that you're starting there, because I think one of the biggest criticisms I've heard of chatbots and that kind of conversational experience is that it can be a trusted agent if it gets it right, but in the situations where it doesn't and you recognize that it's like a computer or machine and there's an inhuman conversation going on, it could really damage both the trust and the brand. So by starting with the iMessage and the high-touch approach, you're not only able to collect data, but really learning about the conversations that are had between two humans and maybe able to roll that into your experience later on.
Yeah, one of the fun aspects of this project, unlike any other before, was the operational aspect. I was able to be really close to the stylist and the personal shopper of the exclusive Fifth Avenue Club. They actually offer free styling service and champagnes and bubbles and do online sort of wardrobing for all your needs. I was able to follow them a couple times on how they would meet new customers. A couple of them said they show their Instagram profiles. They walk the floor with the customer, take notes on what the things the customer would grab, and just talk about their everyday. They would be like, oh, I'm going to a bridal shower. What should I dress? What's the theme here? Oh, you have a baby coming up. How do you feel about the Oscars night currently? So it's really relationship and not so much directly transactional to that end to build your conversions. And that's where we're thinking as a magic sort of key ingredient to we match you to the right person.
That makes a lot of sense. So another hot topic, not necessarily a new topic, is the concept of a seamless omnichannel experience, right? I think, Andrew, it's fun to talk to you about that because obviously we work together closely on when you're on really focused on the mobile experience and converting from hybrid to native, and now you're on the stores, like innovation team, thinking about technology in stores. From your perspective, what are some of the challenges of delivering a seamless omnichannel experience?
Yeah, right off the bat, a company as large and with such a history as Gap, we have traditionally thought of our physical store space and or e-com space as two separate entities. We capture sales in one channel and we don't reconcile it with the other. So the dream would be to marry the two customer data together. It's really difficult for us to, as a shopper comes through the lease line, be able to self-ID to identify who they are, so we can look up their data. It's also difficult for us as shoppers that browse online and on the phone to sign in so that we know what their previous browsing history is. We don't want to be super creepy, but we do want to make it easy for you guys to shop.
A little creepy is okay.
Everybody's different,
if you
right?
Look, if you're adding value to the user, there's times when people
That's exactly right. So it's really up to us. It's our job to make sure there's a compelling enough value proposition, right, so that the user wants to share that data with you. And that goes into a lot of other issues like what kind of data, what kind of PII, what kind of privacy issues. But I do believe that it is our job to give enough of a reason that our customers want to share that data with us. We haven't really figured out that line yet, but that's something that we're working on.
Yeah, I do think it's a great call out of understanding the level of comfort that a person can have in terms of their privacy and what's creepy, the creepy line, right? So every different customer segment.
Give it a different name. It's not called creepy line.
We're inventing something here. No, but it's important. And it just reminded me, I was talking to somebody about this recently. A Friday evening, I was going to order an Uber on the way home, and you know how it gives you the 3 suggestions. So for Friday evening around 7 o'clock, my 3 suggestions were home, Popson's, which is a burger place in San Francisco, and Taco Bell. And I was like, Uber, you know me so well. If I've had a good day, I'm going home. If I've had a kind of day, I'm going to Popson's. If I've had a shit day, I'm going to Taco Bell.
Because that Taco Bell actually serves alcohol in San Francisco.
Yes, the Taco Bell Cantina, exactly. But no, speaking to understanding, for lack of a better term, what the creepy line is. But no, where you should ask versus where you can deliver personalization with machine learning and those kinds of things. What are some of the tools and techniques that you guys have used, whether it's tool, platform, or a different technique or methodology to really understand your customer? And I know you have more than one, but really understand your customer and what their expectations are and what their comfort level is and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll start. For us, we use Apptentive to poll our users on what features they would like to see next. We do this because it goes back to we want to make everything as seamless and easy for our customers to use, and the best person to know that would be themselves. So we take in their suggestions, and then we partner with Prolific to do frequent user studies. And I really like these because we go out, us and the interaction designers, we go out to the stores. After a customer checks out, we talk to them. So this happens every week. We show them design prototypes to see if that interaction makes sense, to see if that seems intuitive. And then also at Gap, we have a really strong consumer insights team. So we leverage them. They help us collect a large panel of very specific users. and then they bring them in for user studies and usability sessions.
Yeah, I think it's a great call out for Apptentive, not just because this is our conference, but when you make a change in your customer experience, like that's a big deal. Like people generally don't like change, and going from the hybrid experience where you have the full feature set of the website to a native experience which isn't going to have everything the website has, and it shouldn't, because that's not what you should be doing, right? There's going to be a transition where you really need to understand what are the most important things to users, and I think just having an experience like that really helps with the trust and understand where they're coming from and what they want and why.
Yeah, absolutely. For us, building a brand new native app, that native app is a very new concept to Gap. So our product we launched our last brand just a few months ago, so we're very much more immature than everybody else here. So it's right now we're just in the phase of trying to figure out what our customers want. What can we do to make life easier for them? So we're trying to find out what that best product fit is.
Yep. And then Sophie, I know you kind of have two customers in a way for the iMessage app, both the stylist and then the customer. How are you going about understanding kind of those dual needs?
Yeah, so in general, for the iOS app, we use Apptentive and also our in-house sort of user testing research, and it's been super helpful. Apptentives is delivered on a weekly basis in terms of the conclusion that we draw from it, and then we rank them, we prioritize them, and then bubbles up to the priority roadmap that will be informed for the team. For mobile styling in particular, with the help of Prolific, we were able to conduct a series of about 33, 34 interviews that was ongoing. Half of them were customers, half of them were stylists. And ongoing throughout the development phase, we would show prototypes and validate our hypothesis within that user testing weekly scenario. What was fun about it currently that I can speak to in detail is we decided to support two top persona, and the two top persona we have in terms of the customers in mind, we build out features specifically for them. So for example, our top persona has ongoing sort of needs to find items. So it's more of a concierge service for the trendy shopper, and with upcoming increasing spending power, but short on time, busy, they just want to find that item. Maybe they're spending $4,000, $5,000 a year already, and so how could they be more consciously making that purchase decision? As well as, secondly, if they're sort of short on time, maybe they have sorted and filtered throughout the iOS app multiple times and still cannot find that item. So through mParticle and probably Amplitude to come, we can segment out those customers and target specifically in context of your mobile frustration and serve you a connection to a personal shopper.
Yeah, so very similar to the previous two answers, but we took a lot of our best practices from our time with Prolific, and really our number one tool is getting out in front of the consumer. So we try and do 2 to 3 formal sessions with about 10 customers. 3 times a year, and really that helps to identify our roadmap moving forward. People are very honest in person, so it's a great way to kind of flesh out what our upcoming priorities and that type of stuff are. On a more regular basis, we're constantly sending out surveys. We're using Apptentive. Apptentive is a great tool for us, and so that she's not leaving any bad reviews in the Apple Store. She can come directly to us and we can work with her on a one-to-one basis. And then, of course, all of our analytics tools. So we love Amplitude, and really they have a lot of great tools for event segmentation, a lot of engagement matrices and behavioral cohorts. So just constantly looking at the data that way. We really leverage our UX team and the insights that they're able to get from the mobile website and even our desktop website. There's still a lot to learn there, and we can kind of look at the full spectrum of what we're offering her from a variety of the channels and really kind of inform our roadmaps from there. So I would say those are our most frequently used resources.
Yeah, that's a good list.
Yeah.
Awesome. So one more hot topic I wanted to cover before we run out of time, loyalty. Again, not necessarily new, but something that we hear people talk about often. So whether you have a formal loyalty program or not, I'm interested in if you think like for a native app specifically or native mobile experience, is it for loyal users or is it like for delivering like experiences or engagement for your loyal users, or is it more about kind of new users, getting folks in the door and building loyalty, or is there somewhere in between? Anyone? Maybe Andrew, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, sure. When we redesigned the app, the user that we targeted was for our most loyal and passionate users, and just so happens most of those customers happen to have our branded loyalty, or or branded credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
So a significant portion of our development was.
Does anyone
geared
have
towards
a
them.
branded credit card, by the way? Because they give amazing rewards. Just folks.
Thanks.
Quick plug.
But like a lot of credit card providers, they have their like Citibank or Chase, they have their own app to help you discover or manage your credit card accounts. So we partnered with our credit card provider, Synchrony, to build that into our native apps. So from there, you can view your credit card activity, you can pay your bills, you can see when everything is due, and you also can see your progress towards your next tier or your next reward. So for that, it was we felt like we hit the mark on that, or it's just another case of making everything available for our customers in really easy to use one-stop shop.
And then Sophie, iMessage, was that a loyalty play for now? In the future, is it about bringing in new folks?
Yeah, so it's definitely an engagement and loyalty play. The way we think about success is how much of all the iOS app sales that resulted, what's sort of the stylist assisted or personal shopper assisted conversion rate, and what are the orders and penetration in that sphere of world. We're thinking loyalty mostly around relationship-driven sales, if I have not hammered the point home. So relationship in terms of connecting to a personal shopper, you would be getting pre-sale, exclusive information, and almost a lot of in-store promos as ahead of everyone else. So if you have been eyeing, let's say, that Chanel bag, I know like Chanel almost never goes on sale, so when it does go on sale, you want to be the first one to grab that pre-exclusive info, or some kind of beauty event, trunk shows that happen in the store. We're thinking of loyalty and driving extra traffic in, and stems from the conversation of that personal shopper informing you as it comes in. Also, just from the relationship aspect, the ability to talk to someone for your everyday fashion needs, it's pretty compelling if you don't need to think about getting your stylist credentials, but having a stylist by your side to assist you and to anticipate everything before you even know it. So that's how we're thinking of building loyalty from there, whether it's driving online traffic, app traffic, or in-store traffic, or everyday conversations. The hypothesis is that these will be used to help make your purchasing decisions ongoing.
So at Lilly Pulitzer, we actually don't have a formal loyalty program. We run a full price business, so except for twice a year when we have these huge online sales, which, if you're familiar with, we, break the internet constantly. So we have a very, very loyal customer. I mean, I think at least 3 people since I've been here have mentioned the Lilly Pulitzer for Target collaboration, which is just, one of the identifiers for how loyal our customer is. So I mentioned before that our app consumer, 70% of our user base is our top 10% of our consumers. So she is our most loyal and engaged consumer, and she is hungry for anything Lilly Pulitzer. And so, while we don't have a formal loyalty program, we use the app that as kind of a pseudo loyalty program, and really want to make sure that she is getting that exclusive experience that she expects when she downloads the app, and really use that as one of our differentiating factors from all of our other shopping channels. So, making sure that she feels special and that she's getting all the information first, and is one of the things that we really work towards and hold ourselves to.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting that we happen to have 3 folks whose mobile experiences are very focused right now on like the loyal customer and really building that loyalty. Just to be fair to point out that there are some like really, and I'd love to chat with some folks if they're here, who are using the tactic of more, it's about marketing, new user acquisition, and like awareness and building loyalty. That's an equally kind of valid approach to your mobile experiences, and that we just happen to have 3 loyalists on the panel right now. So just as in order to wrap up, what's love got to do with it? So what is your kind of final thought or takeaway for the folks in this room in terms of what they can do to deliver love in a way that is not just like, hey, you guys are great, but actually really drives conversion and the KPIs for your company? Do you want to start, Laura?
Sure. So you've heard me say this a lot. It's obviously hot in my mind, but making sure that with any sort of app that you really do have a differentiating factor and you're offering a service beyond what she can get anywhere else. That's something that's super hot in our minds as we're creating our roadmaps and really looking towards the future, that we're constantly innovating there and making sure that we're meeting our consumer, as corny as it sounds, but it really is true, meeting her in those mobile moments. Because that's what's going to keep the app alive and going to keep her coming back with high retention rates.
I'm going to say this, it's going to sound cliche, but it's empathy and really being on the ground and close to the stylists I work with. So one of the key drivers in success of the pilot is to ensure that the stylists could send product recommendations really well and build their individual business growth with commissions automation in the background. So being in the training workshops allowed me to see what their frustration is. And throughout our discovery, we did at one point kind of lose sight of that goal. But then we were able to come back to it at the very end. And during the workshop, we delivered a moment where with long press, you can send a product recommendation in one touch. So at the end of the workshop, we showed that, and then all the stylists was like, oh my gosh, this is magic. You guys really understood what streamlining workflow and time efficiency is for us. So for me, it was really being in all the user interviews as much as I could, and being in the workshops and seeing how they use the product and see how it come to life.
I would say find out who your target user is, who your target mobile user is, and let that be your North Star on building your mobile products for that customer. We at Gap, when we did this redesign, we poured out a lot of sweat to make this happen, and I think it's definitely paid off. And if you happen to stray away from that path, those customers are going to be your most passionate ones, and they are, you're never going to stop hearing the end of it. So I think it's very important to stay on that direction and just keep that focus.
Yep. Yeah, and I would just add to that, the importance of having a very clear mobile point of view or strategy. And when I say mobile point of view, that's both for like, what's the difference between native and mobile web? Are you going after your most loyal customers, or is this more of a marketing play where you're going after new users? Does conversion need to happen in a native app or because of the native app? So really having that perspective and the relationship that you want your customers to have to the app. Is it about discovery and inspiration, about hearing the latest? Is it more about utility, search and discovery? Like, what is your perspective on those things, and how does that fit into your kind of of broader product experience. And then key to that, obviously, you've heard from every single person on this panel, is truly, truly understanding the people that you're trying to win over. So I think that's about all the time we have. Thank you so much to our panelists. And please do chat with them when you get a chance. They're fascinating people who do fascinating things. And